It's 11 a.m. on the West Coast, 2 p.m. in New York City, and wherever you are, it's draft day. We're doing this a little differently for this coffee break, and we've asked two of our favorite people in the marketing space to join us and draft their ideal Martech stack. It's also the middle of the NBA draft. It's like a tie-in. You get it. You're marketing people. Playing the roles of GM today from Channel 99, the CEO and co-founder over there, it's Chris Golick, and the VP of Demand Gen at Invoca, Nani Schaefer. Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
And our expert analyst for this draft, Iron Horse CEO, the Charles Barkley to my Ernie Johnson, it's Uzair Dada. Hi, Uzair.
Hello, hello. This is going to be awesome.
We're not in Madison Square Garden, but we're doing our best. And unfortunately, we're not going to pay any of you millions of dollars when this is done. So, our bad. Before we get started, we want to set some ground rules for the draft. So again, if you're just joining us, we're going to pick some Martech elements. We're going to have a list at the end. In the chat, let us know how they're doing. We'll have you vote at the end. But the very first ground rule, you already have your own company, right? So Chris, you don't need to draft Channel 99. We're not going to put you in that position. And it would be boring if you just both picked your own companies first. So you've already got your own company. The second rule, you're starting from scratch. The whole concept of this was built out of the idea that that's something we almost never do, is really start from scratch unless you're launching a new startup and saying, how do I build every part of this exactly the way I want? We're letting you do that a little bit today. And the third rule is really more of a note. It's not your entire stack. We're going to do the first 5 picks live on the webinar today. But then you would go off and do some undrafted free agent signings. We're not expecting you to build an entire functioning stack out of just 5 companies. So with all of that, and as people are chiming in from South Carolina and Chicago in the chat, we have to figure out how we're going to start things. And that means we're going to do a coin toss. Executive decision. Yeah. Nani, we'll let you call it. And we'll have you try to call it in the air. So 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm switching to tails. Oh.
Heads, unfortunately. Last second. You had it.
All right.
Stick with my gut. It'll teach me.
We're going to snake this draft, which means Chris, you'll get the first pick, and then Nani, you'll get the second pick of the first round and the first pick of the second round. I'll explain it. It's complicated. But Chris, 1-1 pick. The commissioner comes out on stage, opens the little card you've given him. What's the name he's reading?
All right. My first pick is my playmaker. So think Steph Curry, think San Francisco. I'm going with Salesforce.com. We all know what they do, but they're also in position to buy other companies. So I kind of consider Salesforce a twofer.
Very nice. Very nice.
Salesforce coming out of the Bay Area, like you said. Obviously, it's Salesforce. We're familiar. But an integral part. Uzair, we'll go to you for some quick commentary. Like a bit of chalk for a 1-1, but I think a solid pick.
I think it's a solid pick, and especially with all the stuff that they're making and doing on the agentic side and AI investments. I think it's an interesting one. If we were doing this draft maybe a year ago and Chris picked it, I would have gone, interesting. But I'd say it's a pretty good pick.
Nani, the stage shuffles a little bit. Everybody claps. Somebody's off interviewing Salesforce right now. Pick number 2.
All right. And I will just mention before I do, Salesforce was also on my list. I actually had to double check whether it was necessary because it might have been an assumption. It's so foundational. So totally agree. Solid pick. Hopefully I can also get it. My number 1 pick is going to be a tool that I'm super excited about. They've also been making a ton of investment into their AI functionality. I'm going to go with Qualified. we have recently, just to keep talking for a little bit longer, with Qualified. We leveraged them initially for sort of an inbound use case, chat on the site. They've been really solid in that sense. I'm super excited about their outbound functionality as well, and being able to leverage them for things like driving folks to events, and also, booking meetings directly. So we've been really happy with them as well.
If you go to we added it to the slide because it's all over the place. If you go to Qualified's website now, they're very heavily in. It's nice to have a company that has a face for this because it works out really well. But the person walking on stage to shake the commissioner's hand is Piper, the AI SDR that's all over everything that Qualified's doing right now.
Yes.
Who's there? Any hot
I know,
takes?
I'd say this was a surprising one for me. I would say it's an interesting one in the stack. I was surprised that is your first pick, although sort of thinking about, you guys are both thinking sort of more RevOpsy, it makes sense in some ways that's there. I think the whole AI SDR space is just ripe and getting riper, and everyone's experimenting. So I don't know who's going to win it, but I think as a category, it's a super interesting category, and I would definitely have it in my stack to optimize the critical function, which is the marketing to sales bridge. Interesting where you picked it, though. I like it.
Yeah.
So moving into round 2 of the draft, Nani, we're going to stay with you for the third overall.
Yeah.
Chris, it's the tax you pay for the first round, the 1-1. But Nani, who's your first pick of the second round?
All right. This was another one that occurred to me this morning as I was thinking about what could I truly not live without, and also wish I could live without, which is Slack. Something we're all used to, found just invading our dreams. It does enable us, like I was thinking about, especially with working remotely now, how just different our work is, and the way that we communicate and the way we interact. And so that's certainly something I don't think I could live without. In fact, we've been knocked out of like our whole G Suite and been just fine for several hours knowing that we still had Slack. So that would be my next pick. And I don't think
this was, so to peek behind the curtain a little bit, we asked the GMs to send their picks over so we could put those amazing little graphics together that clearly took not much time. Slack was not on them. It's a late call. I'll be the Shams also. Breaking news. They were planning on doing that pick 2 days ago. Who's there? I know Slack may seem straightforward. I have a take on choosing Slack if you don't have.
Go.
Choosing Slack really says a lot about how Nani's building the culture of her organization. What we see a lot is that you're either a Slack team or you're a Teams team, frankly. And I think Nani is really setting her organization up well long-term to not be a Teams team. And I think that's a great call.
I also think it's pretty interesting because Slack is sort of becoming an abstraction layer for everything. Mm-hmm. So even though you have all the different tools, the connect happens largely through Slack. Mm-hmm. And notifications happen through Slack. The collaboration happens through Slack. So I think that's a really interesting piece. Again, Nani's throwing me off in her order, but I think those are all pretty awesome ingredients, right? I would say for sure those are must-haves, both those, in terms of kind of what I would have in the mix. But in thinking about where she picked it, that's kind of where I would go. So to me, it's sort of like, just because I have certain tools, they're there, but I interface them using Slack. That's my interface. So that makes total sense.
That brings us back to Chris for the last pick of the second round. Chris, who's up next?
So I think I have licensing rights to Slack because I have Salesforce.
Ooh.
I'm just kidding. Nani can have Slack.
A bundle.
I also like Qualified. We're big fans, and so I think that was a good choice. But my second round, I'm going with an up-and-comer that some of you may or may not have heard of. I think Caitlin Clark kind of best represents this player, and that company is OneMind. So also in the AI SDR space, I really love what they're doing and how they're training their agents around SDR versus AE versus SE, and super engaging, super impressed with what Amanda is building there. And as you all know, she was my nemesis while I was building ABM technology for years. So really excited about what they're doing.
Chris, what do you like about?
Oh, I was just going to do my little table setting. I found it in 2024 in Mill Valley. If you Google it, it's new enough that you still get results from a dating app from 2013. So I did just want to clarify on the slide. There was a dating app called One Mind. Chris did not draft that. He drafted the other thing. It was there. Sorry for interrupting.
And Chris lives in Mill Valley, so the dating app in Mill Valley.
We just want to set the record straight.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So what I like about it is it's the engagement. It's not a chatbot. It's an interactive. You get out what you put into it, so you have to train it really well. But it's changing the game because all these solutions work off the premise that people don't want to schedule a time in the future for a demo. They just want to engage now. Yeah. And so I think whether it's Qualified or OneMind, that whole idea just creates so much more efficiency.
I think they also the evolution. I'm glad you said it. All the AI SDR stuff that we've experimented needs a lot of TLC, and you get it right and it gets better, but you have to iterate on it. And I think the voice-based AI SDR stuff, and maybe in some days your digital twin SDR or AE or SE, are interesting instantiations of where this will evolve to. But yeah, I think that category is just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, we stay with you then for the first pick of the third round.
Okay, let's see. I am picking for my third pick, kind of a workhorse. So I think the Joker behind me, Jokic, is my third pick. And I think LinkedIn Sales Navigator is super critical for our operations here. And I think my team would shoot me if I didn't get that one in place. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator as my third round choice.
One of the things I like about so many of these picks, like we're seeing with Slack, and I think again with Sales Navigator now, is y'all really did approach this as coming from scratch, like from absolute zero. And a lot of this is there. I think this is to your point about like, are some of these picks a little expensive? These are fundamental parts of the way that we work and the way that we do marketing, and especially when we get over to the rev ops side of things. And I love seeing them get called out this way. So that's LinkedIn Sales Navigator for the first pick of your third round. That kicks it back over to Nani. First, your third pick here in round 3.
Sure. Yeah. So this one, I wish I could have just put a grouping because we've been testing out so many of these different ones, as have we all. But obviously, generative AI is absolutely critical to everything that we're doing these days. And so I put ChatGPT, which is a little bit of a cop out. Again, it could be any of the custom GPTs. It could be Claude. It could be Gemini, like all of them. I'm glad. Yeah. Like
we got you all the logos. Don't worry about it. Pick one.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Didn't even ask for that, everyone. So, but you got the spirit of what I was going for here. We've actually, interestingly, on our marketing team, we recently ran a campaign that we challenged ourselves in an almost ridiculous way to use AI for every single step of the journey, from how we communicated and met about it, to the content asset that we were building, obviously sort of built through AI, to the way we're distributing it, to the audience that we went after. And so we as a team have been, investigating lots of different options for every, again, sort of step on that journey. It's been really, really interesting and a fun exercise to go through. But so as we've gone through it, it's just amazing every day, the new use cases and the new ways that we think about using these tools that just hadn't occurred to us, right? Like I think back to the days where it was like, oh, it's cool, I can come up with a recipe for you, right? And now it's like, no, this truly, I've just never been in a time where things have been so quickly transforming for how we get things done.
Uzair, I think we were all kind of waiting for this pick, a version of this pick to come off the board.
100%. I would have thought one of you would have had this as your number one. 100%. And to me, this is foundational. I think the way you guys are thinking about it, Nani, is awesome. Kind of, we internally had a kind of a interesting challenge. We started almost over a year ago, where I call the challenge was 10 to 10. So challenging yourself to say something that used to take you 10 weeks takes you 10 hours. What used to take you 10 hours takes you 10 minutes. And like looking at that across the entire, not just the marketing workflows, but just organizational workflows and what those are. And
Yeah.
every day you are absolutely astounded at how many of those things you can do, how much more thorough you are, how much more comprehensive, and then the velocity and the presentation layers are just incredible. So yeah, pretty awesome. Glad you have it at your round 3. I would have thought this would have been higher up, but this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Before we get to the starter round, oh, go ahead, Nani. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying I'm getting a steal, this is going to be my team.
Absolutely.
Right.
The fact that also, like the families of these folks have been on a rough ride. We've been watching them sit there at the table, seeing all these other picks come off the board. And they're like, oh no, is it ruined?
Yeah.
Don't worry, we got you. You're good.
So
Before we move on, this was not a thing that we planned to do though, but let's just go down the list. If you have to pick one, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude or any other things, if you're only getting one, everyone, which one are you picking? And you can pick the same one. This is just me wondering.
I would probably go with ChatGPT, but because I use it.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with Chris on that one. I think I would go with ChatGPT. That being said, I think my IT team technically says Gemini because that's what we've got. Sort of that's the safer place for putting our internal data, which is frequently comes up. So I move between the two, but I do think ChatGPT is really strong.
Is there? What about you?
I think it's very use case driven, but I think Gemini recently has been outperforming from a rating ranking perspective, all the platforms, because they've just got, from an enterprise readiness perspective, I think they're further ahead structurally. And what they are building in terms of a full functional stack that your IT team will be happy with and has the governance and rigor. And they also are the first platform that now indemnifies both the training model and the output model. So from a usability and scalability and enterprise readiness, I'd say Gemini. From a innovation perspective and pace of innovation perspective, I'd probably say ChatGPT.
Interesting. I'm a Claude guy myself. But I mostly do copywriting, so it works for me. So Gen AI off the board in the second pick of the third round. For the first pick of the fourth round, Nani, it stays with you.
All right. So this one, maybe a little bit less sexy, but keeping the trains on track, super important for us, especially in sort of my world of demand gen, lots of moving pieces. So I went with Asana, which also, unsurprisingly, has a lot of new AI functionality that they're building in, which is a part of what we discovered in this project that we were running. But super helpful. I will admit, I myself am less of a power user than I wish I was, but folks on my team really rely heavily on Asana for, again, sort of keeping their projects on track. We also use it for things like task management and requests of other teams outside of marketing. So it's been a really helpful tool for us, for sure. Less sexy, I'll admit, but it's there.
I mean, this is not the most sexiest headline making draft. We've drafted both Slack and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So right in line, this is a fundamentals based draft. My grandfather is so excited about all of the picks that we've made in this draft. They know how to pass. They're going to drop so many dimes to a good shooter like Chris drafted earlier. This is like we're playing James Naismith basketball here. We're at Iron Horse. We're an Asana shop. We live and breathe by it. And yeah, fundamentals. Like this is Nani, you're getting work done over there, and it's getting done on time, or as the slide said, 2 weeks overdue. It's fine. task slides
I think
sometimes.
Nani is focused on working and Chris is focused on schmoozing. That's kind of where the draft is sort of falling, I'd say.
Well, I mean, it's Lakers versus it's the Lakers of the 80s versus maybe Boston. Maybe that's a good
Yeah, I
good
kind of have an expansion team, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. With speaking of expanding teams, I'm a professional host. Chris, you're gonna expand your team with your 4th round pick.
All right.
Who do you got?
So I'm going to pick a technology that everybody likes, just like Giannis from Milwaukee, human specimen. But every time I go to an online meeting and it's not Zoom, I kind of cringe. So Zoom video is my 4th pick.
This is another culture pick, like
Yeah.
Nani you had with Slack.
Yeah.
I would agree with this one though. I get confused when I'm not on Zoom. I don't love it. It's not my happy place.
Microsoft Teams is having a rough draft over there.
Yeah.
Just,
I didn't say it, but that's what we
I'll
all
say
thinking.
it.
Oh my
Well, I gave
God.
him some love with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Technically, yes. But another solid fundamental pick. So Zoom obviously I think is the one in this category. If we're saying that this is our big or 6-man off the bench, whatever. I think Google Meets would have been the other option in the Google Suite, and then Teams. Do we think that this is a space? This is not on our prep list, but is this a space that is just settled now? Is this just like no one's going to come try to disrupt this, and we kind of have the key players, and this is just the infrastructure moving forward? Or as we're seeing more of this AI stuff, do we think there's any room in there for somebody to be like, I'm going to make a run at Zoom? Or is that just settled now?
There's so much infrastructure that goes into these things to do them right. I just can't imagine somebody displacing like a Zoom or a Google or Cisco WebEx, because the amount of infrastructure investment to get it right is just so high.
Yeah.
So we're building a Zoom statue outside of your arena in 30 years, Chris, with this pick.
No, I think that's such an interesting question, though, because obviously with more and more people working remotely, you would think that we'd want to really make that experience as good as it could possibly be. And certainly there are overlays on top of it in terms of like what you're getting out of the meetings and the AI summaries and things like that. But I actually I get excited about the idea of potentially someone coming in and really disrupting it, and maybe kind of being similar. I picked Slack earlier, right? But like there were chat capabilities before that,
Right.
but somehow Slack came in and just made it work, like truly made it replace a lot of meetings and truly changed the way that we communicated with each other. And I could imagine there being a way to do that with these, because no one, I mean, we put Zoom and that's fine, but no one, I don't think, feels all that strongly about their, meeting platform.
But I think that's a really interesting point. Like all these are now mature technologies that are ripe for disruption. Even Slack. I mean, if you look at it, yeah, they're good. They're good because we've gotten used to it, and those are the only choices available. Yeah. But are they? They're still annoying. There's a lot of annoyances for all these things that exist. I think you'll see much more integrated collaborative technologies emerge over time. I don't know if they'll be displacing a single feature, but I think the disruption will happen in these categories just because they're so ginormous.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the 5th round coming up, but before I do need to let chat weigh in. I knew we would have one. They got the chat going. Turns out, Chris, it was Zoom. You got booed by people who are writing for Google Meet. I know if they're Google Meet people, their opinion probably irrelevant to you. But then Todd brought up what I think is a really good point of, if we were doing this 10 years ago, this would be a Skype logo. And just like the amount with which that, like, I would have asked the same question about Skype. They're the only ones who were doing video. Like they had probably at that point just been bought by Microsoft. Like, how is anybody ever gonna knock them off? Like, this this does change so often. Also, remember after the pandemic when everybody bought the wrong Zoom stock because we didn't know what was happening because they had the Zoom ticker. Humans are wild. All right, Chris, your final pick of the draft. Oh, and Amanda also made a really good point about how this is all based around human communication as we move to more of this AI and agent-based stuff, how that could fundamentally change how what we need for the just human to human talk. So Amanda, I love that point in the chat. But Chris, 5th round, your last pick of the draft.
All right.
And then
not surprise people.
Plenty of space work.
Yeah, so this is an up and comer. I literally just met this company a few weeks ago. And it's just like Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man. I wasn't familiar with him until the playoffs. And so I kind of assimilate this pick with him. And the company's name is bluebirds.ai. And they've automated and done something as mundane as list building for SDRs, but the team is out of LinkedIn. And so it's not ranking companies just on intent. They really mine deeply into LinkedIn to understand organizational issues, challenges, interests, and automate this whole list building for SDRs to generate a lot of efficiency. And that's just kind of step one. It's really amazing what they've put together. And so if you think about Bluebirds is all about kind of an outbound motion and using AI to do that. And my OneMind pick is all about the inbound coming in and engaging and capturing. So that is my 5th and final pick.
My only note on this, as I put on the slide, currently a tough Google. So it's bluebirds.ai to get there. If you Google Bluebirds, you're going to see a great pictures of Bluebirds. You got to dig a little deeper, as you said, Chris, new on the block at the moment. But also really one of the more interesting like little dives I got to do in prepping this. I think that's a great pick. Nani, it's your 5th round pick, your last pick of this, of the primetime version of the draft, we'll say.
Exactly. I was going to say Mr. Irrelevant, but there's obviously so many different technologies. It would be a weird tech stack if it ended here. So with this one, I'm going to go back to something sort of near and dear to my heart, probably near and dear to Chris's heart as well, and go with demand base. I am of a mind that good B2B marketing is all account-based marketing. And so it's necessary to have an ABM platform in your tech stack. So definitely wanted to highlight this one. This is something that we rely on every day. For the way that we help our sales team prioritize who they're going after and obviously who we are also doing our marketing towards. So shout out to demand base.
All right. I'll thank you, Nani. I'll release those licensing rights for Slack.
Thank you.
Huge news. Play the little da-da-da sound. So those are our first 5 picks. We'll go ahead. We'll get the poll going. We're going to chat a little bit longer. But just to recap, Chris, you've taken Salesforce, OneMind, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Zoom, and Bluebirds. Nani, you're on Qualified, Slack. Pick your Gen AI of choice. It sounds like maybe we settled on ChatGPT for that. Asana and Demand Base. Now, Uzair, I'm going to kick over to you. We've got these picks. What are some holes that are going to need to be filled in the further rounds of this draft?
Yeah, I'd say they were both very unexpected for me, completely, in a lot of ways. I was surprised. I mean, Chris came in extremely sales heavy, so he sort of went all in on the sales side. Nani, I think, was a good blend of RevOps and sort of demand. The 2 particular areas that I would have thought Nani would have gone for that she didn't was actually both. To me, the fundamental is your website. If you don't have your content, your engagement, your experience, I don't care what you are doing, it's irrelevant. So I'm surprised that no one started with that as one, right? Yeah. So I would have potentially gone to something like a Webflow. that is all AI optimized, sort of focused on. So that was kind of the one that I thought was interesting. And that's the bane of every marketer's existence because it all sucks. It's all super well, right? And so it's sort of like, okay, I need to fix it, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening to fix it. I'm glad you brought on demand base, which is pretty awesome. But one of the things that no one else talked about was personalization.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a demand person and you're not doing personalization, there's so much waste in the pipes and the plumbing, right? So to me, that was another interesting one sort of there. So those are the two that probably stumped me that no one touched on categorically. And then the last one that sort of you talked about, but to me, and I think it was a little bit baked into one of the, I think Chris's outbound ones perhaps, was something like a Clay, where I'm able to take unstructured data and structure it to refine my audiences better, because that empowers both my inbound and outbound motions.
Yeah.
And so to me, I was sort of looking at sort of more foundational things in my head of building blocks that I would have everything these guys have in there too. But if I was to say those, like if there were three things that kind of stuck out to me, that was kind of, I would add, and maybe those are lower round draft picks to you all that I think are pretty critical.
It's interesting. I sent out like a note to my team asking about this, and Webflow is the one that popped up first, right? That was like going on Webflow. The other thing that I think was interesting, and Clay as well, although we are Clay customers and we really like it. My team specifically uses it less, so it didn't pop up as like one of my first ones to go after, but it is one that our RevOps and sales teams have been like super dependent on. We had that one as well. What I think is fascinating that we didn't pick and that you didn't mention is no one went with marketing automation, which I think is
that. Yeah.
Like, to me, I think that's fascinating and heartening in a way. I'm excited about the future and moving in a different direction. But I am starting to think in that way about how necessary is that, right? I mean, we still have Salesforce, I think we still need CRM, but marketing automation feels less absolutely critical.
And I think the interesting part is, do I really need Salesforce as a CRM? I need a CRM function.
Mm-hmm.
Do I really need the CRM in terms of structured data?
Yeah.
And I think that is a norm that will be challenged. So there's a bunch of interesting startups that are coming in that are doing exactly that, because the notion is when you ask someone to fill a form, they just put garbage in, right? But all the knowledge and insight is in unstructured data. It's in your Zoom calls, it's in your emails, it's in your Slack conversations. So if I can infer CRM intelligence from that, one of the interesting early stage startups that's doing it is an ex-HubSpot person who started a CRO called Day.ai. So I think those are some interesting unconventional ways of doing the core that I think will make the function better. So I agree on the function part. And I think it'll be very different, right? If you're looking at an enterprise stack, you still will have some of the core guys. You're looking at sort of commercial stack or early stage stack, it'll be very different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Couple other things from the chat. There's the measurement attribution discussion. Channel 99. You got to draft that. So that's fine. We think you've got that in there. Matt from the UK did mention WhatsApp for Business, which is a thing that I think as Americans we think about less, but is like mission critical in so many other parts of the world. We have a couple Iron Horse WhatsApp little side chats that happen as well. Ellen throws coffee.ai in there. Generally, I think a successful draft, it seems to be from the chat. No one's really losing their minds, which is great. Amanda did come clap real hard at Salesforce in the chat. I would say maybe the most controversial one we've seen in a while, Chris, but nobody's going to be mad that you picked Salesforce. Like, you've got ads with Matthew McConaughey now. It's very IBM at this stage. That's fine. I will say I've been watching. Part of the reason why I did that little preamble there. I was watching the poll pretty closely. It is a dead heat, an actual tie for which one of you had the better draft.
Wow.
Nani
We're
came
gonna
out
have to do it again.
Yep. Run it
100%.
back.
Nani, your voter showed up early, and you had an early lead, and then Chris came back in at the end to tie it up. But a 50-50 split. Don't yell at me in the chat now and say you want to vote. I can share. There you go.
Wow.
50-50. Dead heat. So, I mean, I think this went as well as it could have gone. Thank you both so much. This was a delightful conversation. We covered a lot of ground. Chris, like you said, we could absolutely do another one of these sometime soon. Let us know in the chat if you'd like to see another one of these. I did just sound like a streamer right there. My apologies, but it's the world we live in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But thank you, everyone, so much for doing this. Chris, we'll let everybody do a round of plugs. If people want to learn more about you and what you're doing, obviously you're at Channel 99, but where can they go to learn more?
Channel99.com, the website, as Uzair noted.
Nani, what about you over at Invoca?
Same thing. Invoca.com has all your answers.
Also, can people track you down on LinkedIn as well? Both of you, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Great. A hard no there would have been incredible. No, don't talk to me. Not interested in learning
Talk
more
to my
about you.
agent.
Yeah.
Exactly. Get Rich Paul. Is that guy's name? Who's the superpower agent guy? Anyway, basketball talk. Uzair Dada, I know your plug pretty well. It's ironhorse.io. That's where you can find more about what we're doing. You can get signed up for future coffee breaks, and go check out all the past ones. They're all really good. Anything else you want to plug though, Uzair, while we got you here?
No, I think this is super exciting, and I think what is cool is I bet you if we had this conversation 6 months from now, the stack would change. So I think that's what's absolutely awesome in the time of day that we're living in right now with all the innovation going on, as Nani alluded to. So exciting times.
Yeah.
There's going to be a time where we look back on this and it's like, oh, we were all pretty convinced that Zoom was going to be around for a while, and then we'll be like talking about Quirp or something weird. Until we do this again, hopefully all this tech is still around. Thank you all so much. This was delightful. And until next time, coffee break's over, everybody. Let's get back to work. Bye.
Thanks all.
Thank you.